Have you ever looked at a piece of land and thought, I could build something amazing here? But then all you see are stumps and branches and trees piled on each other and all the brush, and you feel overwhelmed? Well, you're not alone. That's exactly how I felt when I first got to this property. Hey there, future homesteaders. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm diving into the nitty-gritty of land clearing and stump removal. Yeah, it's tough, it's dirty, and it's hard work, but it's the first step to creating your dream homestead debt-free. I'm going to walk you through the process, share some tips and tricks on how to clear your property without using heavy equipment, and by the end of this video you'll be ready to roll up your sleeves and get started on your own land. So let's get into it. First off, I wanted to talk to you about why land clearing is so important. Not only is it important to build a road or to build a house, but it also keeps your property fire safe, as well as turning your property into looking like a park. My whole goal with this property is to make it look like a park. I want it to be lush and beautiful and have lots of the trees and plants that are native to this area. The tools that you're going to need in order to do this is a chainsaw, some brush loppers, a good pair of gloves, and some eye protection, and a whole lot of grit. I recommend that if you're tromping through places that have poison oak or poison ivy, that you wear long pants and boots and long socks to kind of help decrease your chances of getting poison oak. It's really not fun to go through. It's very itchy, and I'm pretty allergic to it, and so I usually have to go and get a shot. So I try to avoid that at all costs. Now, once you have a big pile of brush that you've already kind of cut down and consolidated into a pile, which is what you're going to be seeing here, and once you've cut down all your trees that you need cut and cut them up into firewood or something like that, just usable wood that you want to use, which is what I've done. I've made a couple of different wood piles on the property, and once you've gone through the stuff that you're going to use on the property and get it down to where it's a stump, those stumps are no longer needed to be on the property. Now, in our area, you're not allowed to burn them, so we have to actually remove them from the property because there's no useful thing that I've found to use stumps for. Otherwise, I would. So the only other tool that I'm going to be using today to get these stumps off the property is a winch. Now, a winch is a really easy way to move these heavy logs. These logs probably weigh easily 200 to 300 pounds a piece. Most of these are oak logs, and so they're just dense wood. And I can't personally lift them with just my bare hands. I can do the smaller ones just fine, but the bigger ones, no way, I'm not hurting my back on those. So I use a winch to get it up into the trailer. It makes it really easy as long as you have a chain that you can wrap around the trunk, and then you use the end of the winch and just kind of pull it up with it, and you'll get it into the trailer. Now, getting it off the trailer is another story, and I'll tell you how we do that in a bit. So once we get all of these loaded up into the trailer, we will take them down to a transfer station. Those are usually a free way to get rid of your stumps. It's either free or very, very cheap. We had about 2 tons worth of tree trunks that we had on the trailer this day, and it cost us about $30 to dump them. Once we got to the dump, we backed up the trailer to where we needed to dump them, and luckily it's a little bit downhill. And so we basically just pushed them off the trailer, my husband and I, and we were able to do that because it was downhill. Otherwise, then we would have had to winch them out, and we brought everything with us just in case if we needed to do that, but we didn't end up having to do that. So whenever I'm doing this, I keep thinking, what's the cheapest method of clearing our land? There's been so many times where I've considered hiring a company to come out and do this because we have about 1.25 acres, but it was just completely overgrown. Nobody has touched this property in probably 30 or 40 years. And so when we first arrived here, it was very much overgrown, and we live in a high fire part of Northern California. And so we are not only mandated by the city to make sure that our property is fire safe, but we also have many properties around us that are very dense as far as overgrowth of brush and everything. And with the last probably 5-10 years worth of fires that have just gotten out of control, it's important to us to keep our property as fire safe as possible. So since my husband and I really want to build our home debt-free, we don't want a mortgage on this house. And so we are always considering what's the cheapest way to do this. Yes, we can hire a company to come out and help us with that, but we've gotten many quotes and they are a good $5,000 to $10,000 to come out and clear the property. And to us, we just think that's something that we could do. And you know, if you're capable of doing it and you have the strength in you to do it, all it is that you're trading out is time. When you have a lot of money, it's not a big deal to spend that on, you know, professionals coming out and getting it all done in a short amount of time. But when you're trying to do things debt-free and you're trying to prioritize things as we're building this homestead, we have to keep that priority straight on what can we do with the money that we have and what should we do with the money that we have. And is it a priority for us to spend $5,000 to $10,000 on somebody coming out and clearing when we are capable and able to do that ourselves? And it's just going to take a little bit more time. That's kind of what we are weighing out with every decision throughout this homestead build. And so that's kind of the journey that we're going on. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about that, or if you guys have had to consider, you know, weighing out the costs of doing things on your property, of, you know, what did you end up prioritizing? Did you see that it was actually better to just hire it out and get it done quickly? Or did you think, I could do this myself, you know? I'd be interested to know how you guys go through that problem solving. And for this next part, we are going to be setting a fire to the rest of the brush. Now, I've tried to utilize all of the wood that I possibly can, but a lot of the limbs of these oak trees get so intertwined and are so prickly and just stickery and, you know, just it's a tangled mess, really. And so that's what a lot of this pile is a lot of oak and a lot of manzanita, which burns very, very hot. It's too hot to burn inside of you know, a little stove or an outdoor oven or anything like that. And so I've kind of had to think like, okay, manzanita is very beautiful and I hope to use some of it for projects that I have kind of ideas for future chickens and things like that, and just building some things out of it. But a lot of this manzanita that you see here has been dead for a while, or it's just something that I can't use at the moment. And so by the time that I do end up using it, it's going to not look right. So because you have to preserve it in a way to where it keeps the nice red color. Otherwise it just turns this grayish color. And so we're going to be using a propane torch to get the fire started. What I like to do is just prep the area with getting everything wet around the fire area that you don't need burned right away. It's going to dry out. So if you're going to burn it, you know, even 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour from now, that's fine. You could still get it wet just to where any of those embers or sparks or little pieces that fly off, you know, the little coals that can kind of just shoot out, you know, especially if it's popping. And I usually like to keep probably about 20 feet around the fire, just wet as possible. And that way then any dryish brush that's surrounding it, you don't really have to worry about it catching on fire, because as long as you're paying attention to the fire and just keeping that water kind of going pretty steadily, then you don't have to worry about it. I sure hope you found this video helpful and are feeling inspired to take on your own homesteading projects. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your fellow homesteading enthusiasts. Your support really helps my channel to grow. Do you have any questions or tips about land clearing and stump removal? Drop them in the comments below. I love hearing from you, and your insights could help other viewers too. Be sure to come back next week because we just received notice from the city that we got our permits. And so we are going to be setting up our footings and getting the homestead actually built. We're going to be breaking ground next week, and I want to share that with you, and I can't wait till you guys see what's happening. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.